You Found Fishing Without Bait, a podcast dated You Found Fishing Without Bait, a lifetime dedicated to a life without definitive expectations, where we generally have depression and anxiety from either trying to live up to our own expectations or, more likely, our perceptions of what others expect of us. We help people explode into their lives through full impact mindfulness and creating themselves rather than finding themselves. The only entrance requirement is the honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness to try. If you're welcome nowhere else, you're certainly welcome here. And today we're going to continue our conversation with the delightful and insightful Mallory, who we found on Instagram. And what she does is show us how she's expressing thoughts and feelings through art and how she got here from there. Welcome back, Mallory. You play a game and you gain experience points. And if you gain enough experience points, you can level up. So when you level up in a video game, what does that mean?
You get new responsibilities.
You can play the game better, you gain better knowledge, you can navigate the game better, and that's like life. So no one can gain wisdom by attending a lecture, a PowerPoint, but what you've done is you've played the game enough to gain experience points and to level up. So tell us about that. I'm just enthralled with you.
Well, this is kind of like something, it just happens to be something I enjoy doing. I like to read celebrity Wikipedia pages. I like to read from the early life till the end, and not just all artists. I recently read Tina Fey's. Hers is pretty interesting. I like to see where they started, and often there's a common theme where they enter college or high school where they participate in some activity that was similar to what they ended up doing. I usually do it for if I'm starting to watch a show or something. I'm rewatching The Office, and BJ Novak, who's one of the writer-producers, he went to school, I forget his name, but Jim in the show, they went to high school together, and they ended up being friends. So when BJ Novak was doing this show, he had his friend in it. And it just kind of shows how connections can matter. But also they did different creative writing and acting in high school. So that is one thing that keeps me kind of optimistic, where not everyone started out with this extraordinary push ahead. Some people had to work much harder for it. Some people had more of an advantage, but just showing how one interest early on in life, if you just hone in on that, it can take you pretty far. So that has given me a lot of encouragement, just seeing other people who made it happen, who started with, this is my passion, this is what I want to do. I've done something, taken different steps towards getting to that goal.
Wow. So in the 12-step world, it's meetings. People give what they call a lead. They tell how it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. And it sounds like you're reading these biographies of these people along the same lines. How it was, what happened, and what they're like now. Wow. So where do you think you're at on your journey?
Oh, I'm in the early life portion. If you want to start with the Wikipedia page, usually it starts with like a whole summary of what they're doing now. I glance through it. This is the process I go through. I glance through it because obviously I know like a vague idea who these people are because I've seen them in something or I'm interested. And then I read that briefly, and then I scroll down to the early life and I read that section pretty detailedly. And then I end up going back to the beginning, and you can see connections between where they started and interests they had and then how they got there. It's fun little pastime. It's kind of like reading different little articles, but they're all about people.
I think it's also inspirational, and I think what you're getting from those, one of the few prescriptions a therapist can write is for hope. And it sounds like you didn't get a prescription for hope. You created your own.
Yeah, I mean, the hard reality is people have their own goals, their own things that they want to achieve. Not everyone's people will support you, but they're not going to stand by your side and walk you every step of the way. At the end of the day, you have to be your own cheerleader, your own biggest supporter, because everyone's going to be doing that for themselves. And I had to learn the hard way. You can't be the one to knock yourself down. You have to believe in yourself.
So you have to be willing to fail. And failure is not a terrible word. It just means you found something that didn't work. So quite often, we learn more from our mistakes than we do from our successes. It's amazingly wonderful to find out what doesn't work, rather than be despondent about it, to change perspective and say, I'm glad I did that. I don't have to do it again. That's amazing. If you were my patient at this point in our relationship, I would be sitting down with you and saying, Mallory, at this point, I have more issues than you do.
I think we all show what we have going on in different ways.
So that's a very kind way to say that. So we have a lot of people that from all over the world that watch this podcast and listen to us. So there's a young lady out there, and I've often found that young ladies between 13, 14, 15, 16 are particularly formative years where they take their self-concept and self-esteem from how others perceive them. So what would you say to that age group?
Well, in this, I'm going to pretend like I'm talking to a younger me, because this is something I wish I would have done. It would have saved me a lot of sadness, because like I said, I felt like a point in time when I felt like I was missing something in my life. I would say a lot of young girls give up their hobbies, whether it's a sport. I was never a big sports person, but a lot of people are. And I say, group that in, whatever it's a creative hobby, an athletic, whatever your interest is outside of the things that you have to do, like go to school, go to work, I'd say stick with it. I mean, it may be hard, someone might make a comment, because at that age, anyone who's doing something different or trying to express themselves is victim for firsthand criticism. If we're talking like middle school years, I would say stick with it. And if you don't want people to comment, you don't have to put it out there. You can keep it to yourself, keep it to your friends, wait until you're comfortable or you have the opportunity, and then show it. And some things you can just do for you. That was actually like one thing, like if you're looking, I've done a lot of self-help reading, but they say sometimes you can have things that are just for you. I know for me, I really enjoy going on hikes. That's something that I do just for me. I don't really share it like I share with my friends, but I don't really talk a lot about it much. It's just something for me, like my own time. So I'd say to all those people out there that were where I used to be, young girl, just stick to what you enjoy. And if you really enjoy something and it makes you happy, just keep doing it. And you don't always have to tell everyone. You can keep it to yourself and share with those who will help you and support you.
Ah, yes. So one common theme among self-help books, and most of them are just repackaged buzzwords, until I'm really down on them. But one of the themes is to remove negative people, places, things from your life. I translate that into plant flowers and pull weeds. So I imagine you've had to pull some weeds in your life.
Yes, and I noticed when I first started, obviously my drawings were quite rough, to be frank, and I was just copying images that I had seen, mainly of cartoon characters. And there were some people that I did consider close friends of mine at the time, and I would share them, and I could tell they were kind of like almost putting me down a little bit, like, oh, that's a nice drawing. It was kind of like a little bit of a backhanded compliment. And there was my one friend, she's very talented at art, and her opinion really mattered a lot to me because I personally think she's very talented. And she said to me that I had a talent and to keep going. And that really stood out to me. And it made me realize that sometimes those who are not knowledgeable or have the loudest opinions. And my friend, who I thought was very knowledgeable, told me that to keep going and encouraged me. And people that didn't have any creative interest were often very loud and they're putting down my pursuit of this. So I'd say yes,
Those
definitely.
words sting.
Yeah, it really did, especially when it was coming from someone who I thought was a friend. And it was almost like I wanted to branch out into a new area. And it was kind of like I was pretty much laughed at, like, oh, you're not going to get anywhere with that. But, they're all right. It was almost like putting me down.
Almost was putting you
Yep.
down? Definitely.
Yeah.
Okay. So generally, when it comes to friends, I usually ask people, do you have people who understand you?
Yes. And I would be nowhere without them.
Do you have people who listen to you, not being told what to do, but actually sit down and actively listen to you without asking or giving comments or suggestions?
Yes. And I have a little rule with my friend group. We have like a little no advice, no judgment rule. It's a really nice thing. I recommend if you can find 2 to 3 people to do that with. Sometimes you just need to vent. Sometimes you just need to talk about stuff.
Do you have people in your life who respect you, Mallory?
I sure do. And I'm so grateful for them.
Do you have people who treat you as an equal?
Yes.
Do you have people who give you the benefit of the doubt? They don't assume, well, Mallory screwed up.
Oh, if you're my friend, you have to give me the benefit.
Do you have people who give you the freedom of choice, freedom to decide?
I think that is something that, to be my friend, I have to have that.
So I try to impress that upon every young lady, to be understood. You have the right to be understood, to be listened to be respected, to be treated as an equal, to be given the benefit of the doubt and the freedom to decide. And if you're not getting that from someone, why are they in your life?
Exactly. I mean, I know me personally, sometimes it'll hurt in the beginning, but you have to know when to step away. But in the long run, the benefits will be great. You'll have more room and more energy to find people that truly deserve you and you deserve them.
I love the way you're talking. So quite often I'll ask people, whatever they're involved in their endeavor, I say, what's the return you're getting on this investment in this relationship? For particularly for a lot of young ladies, the return on the investment that they're putting in the relationship is a poor return.
I mean, I can speak for myself. I have been in quite a number of relationships, as you put it, that had quite a poor return. But it's true when they say if you will find your people, you will find, when you operate at a positive mindset and a positive view of yourself, when you respect yourself, you will attract people that hold that standard. I believe it starts with you. Once you know your worth and you act like with that mindset, people will be drawn to you and they will mirror that and they will understand.
So what you're talking about is the manifestation, the vision board type of thing, which is generally, I consider, self-confidence. So what does that tattoo say?
Does it say abracadabra?
It says abracadabra. So when you hear the word abracadabra, what comes to your mind?
Well, I feel like this is not the correct answer, but I think of that song.
Steve Miller.
Yes.
So the idea is that most people consider the term magic, okay, making something appear, when actually it's a real word. It comes from the Bible's Jesus time. It's Aramaic, and roughly what it translates into, I speak what I create what I speak, which is nothing less than manifestation. So 90% of cognitive behavioral therapy is about changing the language in the way you speak to yourself. And it sounds like you've shifted the script inside of your head and actually learned how to speak to yourself, Mallory, like you'd speak to a friend.
Yeah, and I think for me at least, that really helped pursuing art, because the more I was proud of my work, it shifted into how I viewed myself. I was creating something that I was proud of, so therefore I was proud of myself. I was also pushing boundaries myself. Originally only did pen drawing, and then I did black and white paint, and then I did color paint, which is what I'm doing now. And just through that transition, I think it also demonstrates the transition of my mindset at the time. I was more open to opportunities. I was in a happier place. And I think just with time and putting in effort and making sure that you're taking actions towards wanting to change, it will then follow.
We're going to continue our conversation with Mallory on our next podcast, where she continues to explain how she continues to bloom through life and how you can do the same. As everyone has been waiting for this free prescription, which can be filled anywhere, fruits, nuts, and vegetables. Unplug your television and take up fishing. And for a truly mindful experience, we suggest that you fish without bait. And do a kindness for another. Do a kindness for yourself. Forgive another and forgive yourself. If we are not all of God's children, none of us are. Till all of us are free, none of us are free. Make choices and be good to yourself today and every day. Namaste, my friends.
If you're interested in flying the colors of fishing without bait, click the shop icon on our website. We have clothing, mugs, cell phone cases, and so much more. Show the world that you fish without bait.